So I'm working on something for the summer festival, and spoiler alert, it involves beanbags. Bum bum bum. And so I've made this thing where normally it's invisible until it spawns. There you go. But then it spawns in a random color, or like configuration of colors, and a random like pattern, like one of 4 patterns. So you've got the checkerboard, and the plane, and the polka dots, and the stripes. And the tassels are coloured in the same way the beanbag is, like that. And similar things, things that are useful for kind of sticking a load of stuff in one place, or spitting out new like enemies, or like bouncy balls, or whatever you happen to be making for your game. And I thought I'd show you how to do it. So first we'll just do it for one bouncy ball. So the main principle this uses. Oh, that's still there. Let's delete that, and we'll freeze that so we don't get it hovering all the time. So the main thing we're going to use is this hue cycle thing. What this does is it adjusts all of the hues, which is the colors, of the sculpt itself. So if I were to go in here, and I'll use push in the touchpad to bring up the color picker, and I'll use some strong colors like that. I'll get the other colors as well. Oh, I'll keep pressing the wrong button. There you go. Okay. So we got red, green, blue, and yellow. And if we cycle them, then red goes through yellow to green to blue, and eventually back to red. This is like the wheel here. It doesn't have this big yellow spot at the top, but it's basically the same principle where it kind of pushes it round. So if I put that tint to full, then the red, as you increase it, it goes round this way, like that, and back to red when it gets to a full circle. And that's what this is doing. But the same happens for the other colours. So the blue shifts through. Oh, it's kind of in the shade. There you go. So it shifts through red and yellow and green and back to blue. And the other colours do a similar shift. Yeah, but this doesn't apply to this tint. Hey John Vok. I may be as slow as Keld on responding to chat. I hope not, though. I'll try and be as attentive as I can. So this tint amount isn't affected by the slider, the hue cycle. Just the colours on the actual sculpt. So first let's make it bouncy and movable. Yay, it's a bouncy ball. Okay, So what I'll do is, oh, another thing is if you have like a color that's a bit kind of washed out or something, or a bit dark or something like that, it's only changing the color. Oh, that's too dark, I think. So if we go in here and shift that, it shifts through, but it keeps the same saturation and light or dark. So if you want some really vibrant color like that, then you want to go in and pick the corner of the triangle as best you can, like that, and then make it really bright, and then this stays really bright, and then you can always adjust the saturation of the whole sculpt using original color saturation, and now it's kind of grayed out, and you can lighten it using this tint color or darken it using the tint color. So you can adjust kind of all of the colors from these sliders if you start off with a vibrant color in the first place. So what we'll do, that will got all of it, I think so, is we'll grab the red and then we'll grab a complementary color, which means on the other side of the wheel over there. So if we started here, complementary color to purple is yellow, blue is orange, and so on. So we started off with red, we'll just go over to green, and we'll and undid for some reason. Surface snap. We'll just give it a polka dot texture to it. That's not too bad. And now when we use the hue cycle, we can get all these other team ups of color, that's the wrong one, other sets of complementary colors. Yeah. So then, theoretically, no matter which shade we pick, that one's a bit crazy, I think, maybe. So we might just tone the saturation of it down in general. But when it picks a new random hue, it will give like a completely different color scheme to it, just with one setting. So let's see how to randomize that. Yeah, we'll put down a chip, grab a keyframe. So how best to demonstrate this? For demonstration's sake, we'll just grab two of these. Oh, and because I'm trying to grab this color, it's actually grabbing the desaturated color because we have that desaturated setting. So to hide any of those, and I'll show you this, if we like tinted it green or something, but then we want to edit this, we can't really see what's going on. If you go to show hide and then coat style and effects, turn that off, now you can see the proper color, and you can use this and X to pick the proper color that it was. So that can save you having to go out and take the tint off and mess about. Okay, so let's say we have some more complex shape that we want to have, but we want all of it to have this hue shift applied to it, and this applies to paint as well. So let's make some green, make a green little bow, perching on top. This does the same thing. Hue cycle. Oh, we have that turned off. Let's turn it on again. So hue cycle cycles through hues of the paint flecks as you made them in the painting. But then if you have this tint, it doesn't cycle that. It only cycles the hues in the painting. Okay, so say you have some weird object that looks like that. And then you want to hue shift all of it at the same time. You can use coat mode, hue, and then so you should just be able to use that hue tool on the whole group, and then it shifts it. If that's not working, I was playing with this earlier and it wasn't working for whatever reason. If you use the up and down, it says resize shape, which is really confusing, but what it does is there's no setting for it in this version. Okay, yeah, if you hold up, then it gives you a big block, and that within that will be applied to that area. Oh, it looks like it affects the individual flecks as well. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, so if it doesn't work on the whole thing, then use up and down to make this box appear. Nice, I didn't actually know I did that. That was pretty awesome. Okay, so back to the beginning. So we want to record that because we want to be able to set the hue of all of this randomly. So if for now we just say we wanted to use a value slider to adjust all these, then you'd have to hook into each individual hue cycle like this, and like that, and like that. Oh, and those should be not movable, and then you make that movable like that. And then you'd use the slider, and it isn't working on that for some reason. Oh, it's got the tint. And then it would change all of them. But if you have a more complex thing than this, then it would be a whole lot more wires and just a lot of faffing about trying to get all that hooked up. So what we're going to do is, that's everything. We are going to use that tool to shift all of them. Now we want to get the full range of it, so we're going to just watch this. The maximum this can go is 360, so I'm just going to apply that tool until it gets to 360 or nearabouts. Mind you, don't go wrap round back to 0 again, because then it won't work very well. Okay, so if you weren't aware that keyframes, so they store a state. So in this case, it's storing this hue cycle being a different number, and if you turn it on, it will be at that state. If you turn it off, it will be at whatever state it was before. However, if you send it as value between 0 and 1, or off and on, then it kind of applies that state to that degree. So then that's full at 355 we recorded, and that's 0, and somewhere in between is somewhere in between for that hue setting, and that's for all of these, all just using one keyframe. So we'll give this a name, hue. Cool. If we had a signal generator, which this by default gives you like a sine wave between 0 and 1 going up and down over time. So if we did that and hit play, then it's like cycling through all those values over time and changing colour. However, what you can also do is use it to make a random number. So if I put that to 0 and that to 1, now every time it goes up, it will go up to somewhere in the range of 0 to 1, and then when it goes down, it will go to somewhere in the range of 0 to 1. So now it will be random, but if you set it to 0, then it will be a purely random number in these ranges every frame. So when that's hooked up to here, then that gives a random color every frame. But we want it to kind of pick one, and that's it. Okay, so the selector. So if we have A powering that, then have A change the mode, the channel to B, then it will be on A for like a split second, and then it will be on B, and it won't be powering this. So let's just turn this on to keep changes, so that it keeps the changes. Yeah, so I think I know what's going on. Oh, it like changes how it actually works. Interesting. So what we really want is for, yeah, that plugs in there, but then we only want it to keep changes. So let's see what happens. It has keep changes on, and let's look at what it actually does. So it just increases and just keeps increasing until it gets to the maximum, because keep changes every frame, keep changes will apply the biggest amount of power it has, and it is ever received, and it won't reduce it. So what we really want is to not keep changes until the second frame, because the first frame will always be the same. So if I did that, this phase offset basically sets where it starts. So here it always starts at 0, and you can see this happening down there. If I move that out of the way, if you started it there, then on the first frame it would always be that value, and it would always look like that. So we want the second frame where it's actually random. So on the second frame, which is our B output, we will turn on keep changes, and then we'll go to C, so then we're not keeping changes anymore, and it's kind of a bit complicated to explain. But we don't want this powered either. When once we picked a color, we don't want it to keep picking colors, so we don't want it to keep powering this. So if we turn this off on C, because there's nothing powering it there, then it won't be powering that. So I have a feeling I did a horrible explanation job of explaining this, but does that make sense to anyone? So what's happening is this is spitting out random numbers while it's powered. So on the first frame it's spitting out random numbers and like applying it to this keyframe, and then the second frame it's still spitting out, but the problem is on that first frame this spits out the same random number. The second frame, so then this triggers it to become B, so that will happen on the second frame effectively. So on the second frame this is still powered, so it actually spits out a truly random number and powers it, and we want to keep those changes, so then this setting on the second frame will stick and it will stay that color, and then we change over to C, which will happen on the third frame, where this isn't powered and that won't be powered by this, so then it will just stay like that forever and won't keep on generating random colors. So then you just get a random color and that's it. One problem is that because on this first frame it's not at its final color, it always flashes red like that. So if we just say when it's on the first frame, then we don't want it to be visible. It's kind of hard to see like that. If we grab a... I'm not bad, thanks, Seth. So grab an emitter and we'll just have it be once. Don't use speed, and we'll use a switch so we can just turn it on when we want. Okay, so we turn it on and it spits out a new one that is the same color. That's interesting. Okay, let's have another play with this then. Oh. Am I looking at the right? Oh, I know what it is. Silly me. The microchip should be in the emitted thing. So if you make sure you have preview invisibility off, you can grab things and move them into there by scoping them in. So while you're grabbing something, so if I show you with just a couple of sculpts like this, so if I want this to be in a group with that, I can grab that, hover over the other thing, use L1 and X to scope in, and now I'm in a group that contains those things, and I just let go and I group out, scope out, and now they're in the same group. I'll do the same here, so I can grab that, scope into the emitted object thing, and just hovering it there. So now I'll scope out, and now when it emits a new one, it'll emit this logic and choose a new color. So let's try that, like that. Now let's just see what happens if we don't have it invisible. So you see it changing color? Sometimes you can. Yeah, so that one flashed red and then changed to a random color. So that's why we need... There it is. Need that to make it invisible and stuff. So... Okay, so we got that. So pretty much that is how you make it spawn a random color and keep the texture and whatever. Cool. So the second half of that is to make it so that it's a different texture as well, so it's not just polka dots every time. It could be stripy or plain. So we'll just have a look at doing that. So normally you don't have to remove this link to the object. You can just like scope in and do whatever you like. In this case though, we want to do quite a bit of stuff to this, so I'm just going to press triangle on object to emit, and now it isn't emitting that object. I'll just extend that. Okay. So first we want to have different designs. So let's use the grid. Okay, so we'll just have 3 different designs. One of them will just be yeah, that's spray paint. So one of them will just be pure red. Oh, it's because we've got that desaturation on, so turn that off, and now it's the proper colours. And then we can grab that proper colour like that. So then we use the spray paint on all of it. And for here, let's spray paint all of it just to reset it, and then we'll add some stripes. Okay, and then so we'll grab this colour and we'll make that, like that. Oh, I think it's got surface snap on, don't need that. And then make it even thinner. Like that, and then cool. So now we have these 3 versions. So if we put on grid snap again, we can move them into the same spot after we've done with them. But first we'll figure out the logic to randomly select one of these to actually show. So I don't need grid on for now, so we'll just add to our logic up here. So we'll use a randomizer, but what logic do we want to randomize? We want to destroy the ones we don't want. So it will start off every time it's emitted, it will start off with all of them in there, which is fine. It's only like a tiny bit of gameplay for each in this case. But this destroyer will destroy that one. That destroyer will destroy that one. That destroyer will destroy that one. So, but we only want to activate them when they're not the one we want to keep. So, yeah, that should work. So if it randomly selects A, then we don't want it to destroy it. If it's anything apart from A, then it's not A, so we will destroy it. Okay, so we'll do that same thing for these, like that. And now if we play time, picks a random one and destroys the others. We'll make sure that's proper random. There you go. Eventually, yay! So it picks a random one, a random style, and destroys the other versions. And once all that is done, we don't actually need this chip anymore, so we can destroy that chip. So get another destroyer and plug the affected objects into the microchip itself. So now it has this little nub on the side, which you you can plug into stuff apparently. It's a bit weird. But this destroyer is plugging into the chip it's actually stored in. Is what is happening there. Let's move these around. But we only want that to happen after. So that will happen on the first frame. That will take 2 frames to actually happen. So then we'll do that on output C. And because we copied it from here, the keyframe still applies to copies of the thing the keyframe applied to before, effectively. So that's why the colour still works. Or should still work. Let's take that off. Oh, we've got... that might be messing it up. Yeah. Okay. So let's put that back in. So of course we don't want them to be all over the shop like that. So let's use the grid and put them back in the same spot. Nice. Oh, I think the back side of the stripes has gone a bit funny, but now if we hook up this emitter again, like that. Hey. So now we have a random color and a random texture, and it affects all of the objects inside it, and the kind of jostling around a bit, aren't they? And the paint included as well. So, we can't actually scope into that. But if we just turn this on so we can see it. So also this chip should disappear. Yeah. Which kind of, if you have like a ton of these around your level, then that would be quite handy to get rid of all this gameplay thermo